Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to our program on Gunjur News Online. Once again, today the date is on the 7th of June 2022 on Tuesday. Welcome to the glorious day in Leeds in Yorkshire and probably most part of the UK sunny today. And once again, we are back with our program on Dialogue with the Youth. So I am your host, Mr. Ibrahim Skaturel Janneh. And today, once again, we have a special interview with one of the Gambia's indefatigable and very, very, very serious man when it comes to Gambia's issue. A man of uncommon wisdom and uncommon decency for most Gambians, I must say. Sorry if I offended anybody. And this is nobody else but Mr. Ben Suwareh. Mr. Ben Suwareh, welcome to Dialogue with the Youth Show on Gunjur News Online.
Thank you very much, Ebrima, for welcoming me back on your platform. And I'm saying assalamu alaikum or greetings to all our viewers from Birmingham, as you said, sunny Birmingham today.
Yeah, fantastic. That's a good news, glorious news.
Yeah,
Mr. Ben, good to see you. And thank you so much, as always, to once again dignify us with your presence on Gunjur News Online. We are most humble and grateful. And we thank you so much profusely for your lack of tiredness or your effort when come to Gambian thing, but not only to put your effort but to balance things for the betterment of the Gambia from the Gambian perspective, not from a group perspective, from individual perspective. Me myself, I treasure that in my breast, and thank you for your energy, and may God reward you. And this is what we need to have Gambians who personally want to see the country developed. And they see the view from the Gambian perspective, not from individualistic, from religious, from tribe, from anything else, but the Gambia for the betterment of all of us. So I must say this because I have to appreciate all your energy. I don't know how you do this with your family, with your work on a daily basis. And these things filter down to everybody. My brothers are in the Gambia and I will talk to them. They will talk about who you are. And that's really, even if it is one individual that the message is filtering through, that is a very, very big plus in terms of civil education for people to understand that we have to come as a group and speak on the behalf of Gambia, not as a group, for Gambia to go forward. So I must emphasize this here. But we're going to discuss many things because many things are happening in that country. We are small, but the problems are endless in our country. But of recent, I think the much talked about is even though we have, a landmine of corruption allegations here and there, but people seem to switch off and talk about the white paper. Mr. Ben, and this is, we see the government kind of appreciate and recommend most of the recommendation and accept most of the recommendation of the TRRC white paper or the government white paper, the TRRC report. But in seeing the failures, the U-turns, the indecision, the party political juxtaposition of this government, do you think this the white paper is another policy statement because nothing is implemented? And I saw one of your posts that you saying if the government is serious about the white paper, there are things that they can implement today. Yeah. You don't need to have to go to human rights court and all those things, but we see the Faraba Commission, the implementation of Janneh Commission report, the security sector, the civil service reform, anti-corruption policies, all have been messed up, one way or the other. And why should we be optimistic, about the white paper, just for somebody to come and state this is our policy statement, we're going to do this thing. But then so far, nothing is happening, Ben. Can you please elaborate on this, and we have to link this to some of the failures that we have, currently, and we have a lot of reports also coming from different commissions on corruptions and all those things, and nothing seems to be happening there. I think as far as I can remember, it's only Dr. Banja and the Gum Petroleum too so far who are in court, and we are going to come to the Gum Petrol one, and then so. What is your take on that, Ben Suwareh?
Okay, thank you very much, Ebrima, again for giving me the opportunity and continued support in taking part in a dialogue, especially a dialogue targeted to the youths, which is very important. And I will reiterate and say this, and I will always remind something I have a feeling of. Two things, Gambian, we should, is to have a dialogue. Another thing, Gambian, we should, is to look at how we educate ourselves, especially very relevant to our problems, and how do we get out of these problems. That's the only way we can develop. Until we have a Gambian perspective and serious in engaging in a dialogue in order to move things would not change. We come to the white paper, and I understand in a minute when the white paper came out, there's a lot of jubilation in a sense. That's a Gambian nature. Gambians, we easily forget. Gambians, we easily forgiven. This is what had happened again. Regardless, to acknowledge, it's right to acknowledge that there's so much, 90% or call it whatever, what was asked for from the TRRC report, recommendations. The Gambia government have come out to say that they accepted these. There's a percentage they did not accept to take. But that's not enough to celebrate for. We have to see the implementations. And the reason why we have seen the history of this government. There's no investigation, and commissions are investigation for that matter. And be it a commission, be it any other form of investigation due to problems in the country that have come concludedly by solving the problem or addressing the problem by using the findings of that investigation in order to implement. As you have called it out, the Janneh Commission is a classic case. In fact, it's an opportunity to involve in more of corruption. The Faraba case. We have seen the Faraba case and other commissions and reports that have been forwarded to the government, and they have not implemented it. And what I want to remind Gambians is, if the government was really, people might ask, oh, then why would they accept the report? They have accepted the report before. They have came out and even accept, oh, we are going to accept the reports 100%, regardless. They said all that. But we have to understand what forces the hands of government and what holds the hands of government to stop them doing something bad, what forces their hands to do something good. That is based on the people's power. And until we use that people's power in order to make government accountable, government will never do something right. I know people will look at the international community, but even if the Gambian people did not use their power to hold the government accountable, there's so much the international community can do. But if we have the resolve and hold this government accountable, then that's where we can use the leverage of the international community and things get done. Now, the government have arisen because first they have to manage the reaction from the people, from the victims and the people in general. And in that sense, they have to come out to say that we accept this report. Two, they have to manage the expectations from the international community. Whether they want to do it or not, these are two entities, or these are two stakeholders they owe reason to want to please or have to manage. Now, in the course of things, we have to look for evidence. Is the government in position, or is government doing the right thing to try to make sure these recommendations are implemented? I would say no. In the first case is, the government knew that they are going to have a white paper. The government knew that they need to implement a white paper. What does the government do first? They went to the very instrumental institution, which is the House of Parliament, and put in two people that came out categorically clear that they are against any form of accountability, because they were part of the problem, whether they physically took part in harming people, but they give their spiritual, they give their moral, every form of support to the person who harmed the Gambian people, the politician, everything else. He selected two people to head that institution. That means the Speaker of the House and the Deputy Speaker of the House. And we have now seen these people take positions in committees within the House of Parliament. That's first indication that the government was not ready to do the right thing. The second, we should have expected something more tangible. When the government said that we accept this thing, did they give us a timeline? Did they put any indication that this is what we're going to do? The government could have said, from the publication of this, or the announcement, or 7 days after this aspect of the report would be action, which is what? Forcing people in active service. People in active service who are sanctioned not to serve anymore. How difficult that is. They don't need to go to the courts to determine that. That's an internal matter. And already there are policies governing this. It does not take anything more than the government action it and it happened. One, and we are week 2 or going to week 3. Did anything after that happen? The other day I saw Jesus in official capacity with the Inspector General of Police. Can you just imagine that public relations? Now, this is someone who is already sanctioned not to serve. Now we are seeing that person with the Inspector General of Police. That is public relations disaster. But again, it gives you indication that this government is not serious in implementing. I mean, and the other thing that can be done, I have raised about the 15 million donated by Senegal, which did not appear in the white paper. But it's a known fact, the government knows this, that they have received donations that is meant for the victims. If this government is not ready to discharge money given to them for the victims, you think the government is ready to give justice to the victims?
No.
If you can do the simplest things, the lowest hanging fruits you cannot pick, what else? The other thing they can do, and so Gambians are serious, is to write the communiques. All it takes to write. People who are already out of the jurisdiction of the Gambia, but within jurisdiction, that there are laws that would make them held accountable to support those countries by alerting those countries and forwarding whatever document needed for those countries to act on it. In the United Kingdom alone, we have the likes of Peter Singate and others I might not even know who are implicated in the Ebrima report. What does it take? How long would it take for government to sit down and write a letter or whatever it takes to make sure these things are effective? Already countries like Germany, are doing this without even government support. United States are doing it without government support. Now, if they do this, will give hope and confidence to the people. But not only that, it will make it easier for even people within the country that are needed to be held accountable to know that this government is serious and they will comply. and will make the government prosecutions easier to manage, because they will want to have a plea bargain in a sense, or whatever it is, to be seen, treated with leniency by going through the courts rightly. This is what we expect, and this is what Gambians will be looking at. We should learn from mistakes. We cannot expect this government managing all the time. Remember, what they would do is, and what they did with Janneh Commission and all these other commissions, is they go with time. As time goes on, other things will come up, and Gambians will start to forget, because we forget easily. And next minute we will be distracted because of they are involved. The government is involved in strategies that keeps us engaged in issues that are of our difference. And once we engage in those, be tribalism, be anything else, what happens is the government is given an opportunity just to go on and carry on what they want to do, and they can disregard the victims, they can disregard the white people. And for the international community, too, they get distracted as well, because there are global issues that happens, and they have priority. They will treat things according to priority. If they realize that Gambians are not serious about this, there's nobody to engage, there's no civil society that is vibrant, there's no vibrant opposition, how can they do things? They cannot do things. They cannot just get up and do things. They have to do things with government, but they will have to do things with other sectors that form the part of governance. But these are the reasons why we stay in problems, and our problems don't get solved, because we don't get up and be strategic and use the power we have, that we are the people that give mandate to government to make sure the government does what we want. This is my point for on the white paper for now.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. I've read Buba Cise's comment, and he said, this is another project proposal for Barrow and his government to go to international communities and said, well, now we have done the TRRC and we accepted the recommendation, give us the resources to implement it. Because even the top people there are saying, of course, it needs resources and all those things. You can see where they are coming from. They are talking about going for the human right, whatever things, to broaden the things, to make it a little bit complicated so that they can have funding. But Gambia has a leverage, for example, on Guinea-Bissau. When you have people like Sana Manjangs and all those things in Guinea-Bissau, they can easily Senegal and all those things. They could get those things. And he said, because I will quote Bart Tambedu once said, to the journalists, the whole transitional justice process is hinged on a new constitution. A new constitution. He said, but in the event of also that we didn't have the relevant, like the torture laws and all those things. You need to prepare these things. They need to have been in court. So now the white paper is there already, and you have to bring all these public order acts, the torture laws, and all those things that are not in the government constitution. And the white paper is coming. So now it's just going to be huge task for this government. The mayoral election is coming. They're going to be distracted in that, So, because a lot of people, what they didn't do is, we just went into the merit, what did they accept, what did they not accept? But those are just a periphery for what our problems are. In the events of, all these reports, commissions, and all these white papers, the Janneh Commission, and on, Faraba, are not implemented and nothing's happening. I think the journalists, especially Ben, the opposition leaders, the across board, the cross section of our opposition leaders, what are they doing? Because we see in Sonko and his coalition, what are they doing in Senegal? But these people are so quiet. They expect the journalists to do whatever they want to do for them, and they're just so quiet. Nothing is happening in that place. There's no political party, opposition party that is holding government on the neck and demand things. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, let me come to that first. What Buba have said is quite right, and you pointed to evidence of that. Yeah. You see, this is where I said there's no political will. And as Buba said, it's just like another project. But it's up to us to make that political will to happen. And that's I will come to where the politicians should play a part, as you have said, mentioned it. Now, we already had my auntie Fatmata Tabajang positioning herself because of she knows how the United Nations system works. She have seen an opportunity that, look, they have opened up shop here for people to come into the so-called committee of this, committee of that. And all the money will be going to those committees on a study tour, per diems, and other kind of things, expense. That's all they do. Talking shop. End of the day, the victims would still not have what they asked for. Now, that's why I say the first commitment of government would. Already, government have recovered almost, that's what they told us, $1 billion on Janneh assets.
Yeah.
Why can't the government take 500 million and make sure it goes to the victims? Do you know what that does? That would serve as an economic stimulus. If I mean go to the victim, doesn't mean that all victims giving the money straight away, but there will be even projects that will be on, just as we said, there's a monument on behalf, to this thing. Look, what about the farms, Janneh farms, to be invested in? Part of reparation. Then the victims of all those communities, because there are victims in Foni, there are victims in Lower Badibu, there is victims in Upper Badibu, there are victims in Kiel, and there are farms everywhere that Janneh had.
Yes.
Now, if they take one of the 100 million to invest in those farms and make it community farms, these are things, they can do that. But no, they will choose to look for money to sponsor token shops. And nothing will go to the victims. Will go to the same elites again. And who will appoint them? The same people, politicians will appoint them. And the so-called reconciliation and peace building and everything else is about money being taken. Remember, Qatar gave us $3 million for peace building. Do you know where that money goes? Most of them went on Padang and sitting allowances. Where there is evidence of anything done? Nothing, absolutely. This is what they're doing. As you said, the government can use very effective ways to do this. And to talk about trials, that is very contradicting to think that we absolutely need a new constitution in order to try these people. That's a lie. Didn't we not try Yankuba Toure?
Yes. Definitely.
Did Yankuba Toure not rely on the same constitution?
Exactly.
Did not rely on the same clause trying to defend himself? If it is good enough to prosecute Yankuba Toure, when can someone tell me that there's anywhere in our constitution that allow people to be killed or executed?
No.
Can you tell me that we don't have laws to deal with people killing people? You want to tell me that there's no laws dealing with people harming other people one way or the other? Definitely. Torture is harm. You don't specifically need to say torture, but causing actually bodily harm is in our court laws. You see? And even though, if we, this even argument said we want a new constitution, what's stopping us from having a new constitution? Again, that will remind Gambians, what stops us from having a new constitution is the same government.
Yes.
It's for their own interest. Now, this is why Gambians should be educated more to know that we have to make them do it. For them, they will not do it. Because look at the cabinet. Didn't we have now, didn't the government appoint a spokesperson as Minister of Communication who denied these crimes happening? And because of that person they appointed, they knew this person's position. That person, the Minister of Queen Janneh, was the person who championed Janneh to be a king, a monarch. Now, these people, you appoint them as your spokesperson. Are you really ready for reforms? No.
No.
What are you telling us? You are empowering the criminals. And not only him. Look at all the positions they given to APRC. Or people that have served APRC. Now, to even people who are going to our embassies. Now, if you bring Fatou Bensouda in London, you think she will facilitate anything that goes against her interests?
No.
Because technically, she morally and probably did other things on the suffering of the people. Now, and wait for the next person who's going to be in America. You see, this is where Gambians should think of this. They don't have politics. Now we come to us, the opposition. You remember I keep on saying this, and it's a shame. When we reference Sonko and others, it's as we are saying that they're so much intelligent than us. No. What they're doing and what they know, we know it and we can do it. But again, this is where we have a problem with the opposition. They are not proactive. They don't set an agenda. They don't control a narrative. All they do is elections, and even that elections, they will not set that agenda. The agenda is always set by the government. Now, the government would sponsor journalists and everything else. They go on a narrative of tribalism. And all the opposition have to do would be always fighting to say, I'm not tribalist. I'm not tribalist. You see, and even by going all the time, I'm not tribalist, you are accepting that it's you that they're referring to. Because you cannot. Now, instead of, if you had been proactive, the government would have been on the back foot, because you'll be holding them on incompetence. You could holding them in on issues of corruption. You will see people and fight for everything to be part of an executive of a political party. But you don't see the responsibility they take as an executive members of a political party. Every time they will expect their party leader to speak. If the party leader did not speak, the party is dormant. If Mamba Kande did not speak, GDC is dormant. If Lloyd Dabo did not speak, UDP would be dormant. Apart from the people on social media, the party as a party. And when they speak, they sit down and wait for something to happen. And they react. They react. If you wait for conflict to happen and react, you will be on the back foot. But if you proactively engage, this is how you win the confidence of people and change a narrative. And this is what Senegal is doing now. Sonko is doing now. Sonko, they are walking ahead to stop Macky Sall declaring himself as a candidate. And they are doing it now. But if it's Gambia, they will wait for the last minute for Macky Sall to declare a candidate, and they want to fight against it. This is where our politicians are failing. This white paper by now, not only to give one press conference, no, they should have a strategy, and they should have started to hold the government accountable, to ask for timeline. Ask the government, when are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? Why not do this? If the opposition have come out and championed to say, look, we want to see from the Janneh post 500 million taken out, and just to be dedicated for this thing, it will happen. It will happen. And I give an example of that. United Kingdom recently, few months ago, when this cost of living started going up, what did the Labour government do? They went and asked the government to tax the oil companies. The government resisted for 2 months because it's something conservative don't do. But because of the support from the people, what did they do? They went and put on tax, and now that tax is going. They're taking that money to give people that need the support to happen. Now, because of that, Labour is leading in the in opinion polls, and conservatives have to do that in order to catch up. That's how opposition operate. That's how opposition operate. Not just to be firefighting or going on issues that are not important at all.
Yeah, Ben, this is what I think the government and the power that be are just setting agendas, and we are flowing with it all the time. I saw a lot of intellectuals, people, newspapers, inviting intellectuals just to come and confuse us more. Because 90% of what we can do with the TRRC recommendation, we can do it in the Gambia now. 90% or 99% of it.
Yes.
This is nothing to do with Janneh. We will going to get Janneh, and it will going to take time. Janneh is going to be the last one. But they just come and say, we don't have the criminal procedure codes and torture laws. We don't have a human rights issues and all those things. They're just confusing us. Those who are vastly mentioned, they are in the system, they are employed. Retire them, they should not be there. You can do that tomorrow. You can just cross border in Senegal and get the junglers in Guinea-Bissau. You get the junglers and bring them. As simple as that. And then if you do those whom you're going to compensate and all those things, give them the money. But as far as you said, if people like the information minister like Lamin Queen Janneh, who is still saying, and I quote, "I am yet to take any conclusive answer until it is decided by court." What are you doing? You are just disparaging the TRRC by itself.
Yeah.
And you go for, but he will not have the audacity to come and say that if he is not part of the group that are discussing these things. Because he is just new in this position. He should be more careful. For him to come out and recklessly say these things, then at the corridor of the presidency, the office of the president, these are some of their calculations. So we need to be very careful. I think the opposition leaders are so lackadaisical. I have to say that, across board, it's not one political, because, they are the immediate rivals. If President Barrow can go after Mahdi, he knows the buttons that Mahdi is touching. Don't forget about this because the moment he touched Doi, Sidia Jata, and the Doi came out and all those things. Why can UDP, why can all these political parties come out, at least for the sake of the country, and said we need a timeline? 90% of what we need in this country, we can do it. There is nobody who is, I think, Yankuba Toure is might be number 4 among the vastly mentioned people. And we tried him in the Gambia successfully. He is behind the bar, with prison. Why can't we do those things? But another thing is, brother Ben, is, this 50 million, we need to dig it. And I respect you so much, to the extent that an individual, no matter how some people celebrate him, no matter his achievement, nobody is above the law. How can this $50 million that was given to us, it's not free. Senegal give us because of a condition. There's a context story to the Gambia for the victims. Where is that money? How can that money not go into the central bank account, but it went onto a private account on the trust bank? And nothing is happening. Oppositions are just keeping quiet. Everybody is keeping quiet. As far as I am concerned, it's only you who is raising these things. Other than that, nobody else. These 50. Can you elaborate on the 50 million that Senegal gave?
You see, this is the point I keep on telling people. Unless you are strategic, people will want to pull me here and there. I said, no, I choose my fights because I want to be effective. I cannot fight everything, but I can choose what I can fight, which are very instrumental and to see a difference. When this 50 million came about, it was not announced. Did you hear it anywhere? No. But I knew about it, but it could not find anywhere until a question was asked in the House of Parliament. And the question was not even about the 50 million. The question was kind of directed to the proceeds of Janneh, if people can remember well. Now, people should ask themselves, why then the response became something different? Because at that time, Batambedu just realized that, in fact, he was involved in something bigger. Now he wants to distract people from the bigger thing, that's this Janneh proceeds. Because the entire way that Janneh proceeds was administered was corrupt. And Batambedu played the instrumental role in that. First, Batambedu made sure that Minister of Finance, who should have taken care of this, he went up to the point of going to Barrow and Barrow siding with Batambedu. That Batambedu to get the Justice Ministry to be responsible of the proceeds before it gets to government. Batambedu appointed Alpha Barry. Alpha Barry appointed a very close friend of Batambedu, who is Binta Sise. Yeah? Now, just as when Batambedu appointed Antuman's Gay, and Antuman appointed his brother, you can see the parallels. Now, when they did this, Batambedu decided to pay or sign an agreement with Alpha for 10% of the proceeds. But already, Batambedu knew from the Janneh Commission, because of the Janneh Commission chair, Janneh, did actually write a letter to the Justice Ministry to say that the accountant that first worked with the Janneh Commission was asking a similar amount. But he said that was extortionate, that let them charge 2.75% instead of the 10% because of the money involved. Now, this being the case, the charges were reversed and made sure Augustus Plum was charging 2.75%. Then Bartambedo already knew the going rate should be 2.75%, but he agreed for 10% to someone he is close with. Not only that, the Janneh Commission have recommended, and the government have even taken a decision on that commercial bank accounts should not be open to deal with government coffers, money. It should all go to the central bank. But they open an account, and that account, in fact, was supervised and by another friend of Bartambedo within the banking system. The reason I'm not calling that person's name is I don't have the material proof because they will deny it. But we know that in that bank, he was the one, the gentleman was the one, and he's a close friend of Bartambedo. Now, when they got this money, they put it in a private account, not at the central bank, until they are ready. The time it takes, the money have yield interest or something, and they then forward it to the central bank. Now, because of all this, he was avoiding this. He went and answered the question by referring to the money. That money was taken from Senegal, donated 50 million, and that 50 million was put into to government, and government gave 50 million. But what we call, it's not a like for like. This 50 million is a donation to the victims. This 50 million is money from the proceeds of Janneh. We all agree, and the government said that the best thing to do is the person who caused the harm to take money from that person to pay for the victims. We agree on that. Now, already, that was in 2017. Senegal gave the money in 2017. Up to 2019, Gambia government then dispersed 50 million. Why did it take that long? Already 2017, they got the 50 million. And no Gambian can tell me that. From 2017, it took them more than months or a year for them to sell the timber. Remember that timber was already ready to, it's not in the forest, it's already ready, whether in a shipyard or in a yard, ready to be sold. It does not take much to sell the timber. Now, up to 2017 to 2019, that they have not paid this money. Instead, they give 50 million to the TRRC. That 50 million from Janneh proceeds. Very clear. Now, where is the 50 million? Because this 50 million is not changeable. It's not changeable. It's not that the government took their own revenue. Government did not take their revenue. And this revenue too, it's not from government. This revenue is a donation from a sovereign country. This 50 million is a money from Janneh. This thing is nothing to do with government money. Now, why did they try to confuse Gambians? It's deliberate when they decided to say 50 million, because they want to cover this 50 million. Why didn't they come up with 100 million? Why didn't they come up with 60 million? Why didn't they come up with 40 million? Why didn't they come up with 80 million? That's what Gambians should ask themselves. They did the 50-50 as is interchangeable, but it's not interchangeable. It's not like for like. It's apples and pears, oranges and apples. Now, that being the case, I keep on talking about this. Keep on talking about this. Every time when it's relevant, I bring it up until evidence came, white paper. In the white paper, it came categorically clear. Now, this government have not used any forum to thank Senegal, any forum to talk about this. Now, the white paper have come. If the money was done right, it should have appeared in the white paper. Why would not acknowledge a gesture from a sister country? And what we saw is only 150 million, which was given from the Janneh proceeds. Now, it's clear. I said, I have got more evidence. I've got the video. Now, because of most Gambians are lazy to even take time to listen to something, I cut the video for 1 minute. Just the portion that was relevant. The question been asked and the question been answered. And I put the white paper together. When I did that, Bartambedo jumped and tried to contact intermediaries to shut me down. And I'll tell Gambians, When I first reported about the dodgy Janneh proceeds handling, Batambe would use intermediaries to contact me and threaten that he's going to take me to court. And I welcomed him. I said, I'll be happy for you to take me to court. And I said to him, I hope you will be ready to give a disclosure on the accusations, just to tell him that I don't want to waste your time, don't waste my time. I know the law. If you are ready for disclosure, we are able to go. Well, these are the disclosures that I'm going to ask for. Because I have evidence about the friendship I'm talking about. I have evidence about the relation. Anything else, I have evidence on that. And now the money, the evidence is there. I'll ask you to produce it. I asked you to produce evidence with it, and he backed off. This time around, he did not threaten me. He went around trying. I told the people that he contacted, look, my statement was made in public. If Batambe want to respond to me, this is not a private matter. It's not a personal matter. He was occupying an office. I have never talked to this guy. I've never even heard of this guy before he became a minister. Never. I know the family. I know the brothers. I know the sisters. I grew up with his elder brothers. You see, I am not an attention seeker. If anything, I would never have mentioned him. We had the struggle here. I have never come across anything. And I'll tell you from the beginning, I was under the underground. I know what happened in Gambia and everything else. He was nowhere. It's not a problem. I said, let him come out and answer the questions. That's all. We need clarity. And this is not for me benefiting directly, but it's to help the victims. They are suffering. Yusuf Mbai still is suffering. He cannot afford physiotherapy. Some things he need to listen. The gentleman is on a wheelchair. The feature is gone. There's another lady, something, Umi, something. Samba, Amen is literally paralyzed one side. Have to be supported by husband. You know, I can go on. Why can't we give these victims the money that they've been given? Why not? Why do we go on supporting elites, on lies? And by the time you have friends and everything, nobody would touch this topic. Instead, they will go around behind the scenes, try to silence you. Nobody can silence me.
No, they can't silence you. Yes, go ahead.
When that happened, and his friends did not come out, because they normally come out, they did not come out because they know who they're going to deal with. They did not come out, then they penned that letter or something missing and decided to send it. They did not put it to where I put my message, but they went and put it on Fatu Network. Because I used to host a platform at Fatu Network, but I did not host this thing on Fatu Network. I have not hosted a platform, Fatu Network for almost a year. Why send it there? You see? And everything they did was actually acknowledged. Now, finally, they acknowledge the existence. And that's what I wanted. Now, what is left to it is for Gambians to support the victims, and the victims to hold the victim center to hold government accountable. Batambe is no more in government, but the government have to take responsibility of what happened. The present justice minister and the finance minister should be approached to produce this money. And if the money is produced even before Tobaski, better, or during these hard times, I'll tell you, the victims will appreciate that. We are in constant discussion with the victims, and we know how much suffering they're going with. But it's unfortunate that someone, because of he termed himself an elite, he will be untouchable and he does everything wrong. And this is where we fail again. There's no civil society out there holding him accountable. There are no activists holding him accountable because selective. And now the opposition is just quiet about this. And if you don't start to fight for these issues, and more, I mean, what else would you fight for? You wait for someone to attack your leader and you go after them. How will you progress? They will say that, look, they'll only fight because of you touch them. If you don't touch them, they will not fight. That's the narrative we should not encourage.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, Ben. Before we come back to you, we have my wife's queuing here, Maria Majuare, say Gambian people don't hold their leaders accountable. Kadi Jabang says, if only we have few more Ben Suwarez in the Gambia, we might just start to see and feel that little change that we are all yearning for. Thank you, Mr. John and Mr. Ben, and our my own wife, Awa, also said, Assalamu alaikum, gentlemen, greetings to them. Ben, yes, I've seen the the Fatu network, but I laughed when I read it because that's kind of justifying whatever you're saying. I was thinking when I started reading, they will come and say, no, there was no 50 million, but at least they justified that, he was just saying, I saw a live video by one of your former staff, Sulayman Suwareh, and I was wondering how one government donates to another government through individuals. If they do, how does it works and all those. But he went on and on to say, the Senegalese government approved the request and committed 50 million, which was supposed to come from Senegalese share of the proceeds of sales by the Gambia government of confiscated timber from Senegal. We didn't even know they were selling these things and all those things. This is so sad. And as you said, people are dying. The victims are dying. They've been through psychologically, some of them, their life have been shattered. Nobody is even talking to them, They are just dying on a daily basis. This government can implement this white paper today. So for them to come out and start with Janneh about the human rights, so we are all occupied about the human rights thing. This is not human rights thing. We cannot do this in the Gambia. If you take it to ICC, you will not get him. This is not about Janneh. As we said, 99% of who went against the victim or in terms of reparation to give victims something, we can do those things now.
Let me give you two examples, Ebrima, here.
And then let me you can add this thing also, because I saw you said, you're thinking out loud. What will have been the fate of the white paper if Janneh and the entire APRC supported NPP campaign? Lesson in political negotiation. If it is not in your hand, you got nothing. After you finish that, you can address that too together.
Okay, thank you. Now, this is where people should understand the political world. Remember this Fatou Bensouda appointed now as ambassador. You see, this is the problem. All the people that were against the people are the now people being appointed. Now, how many Gambians are qualified to be in that position that have nothing to do with the IJM?
Many.
Okay, now, this same Fatou Bensouda, remember, when she was at the ICC, she said, and Gambians were just not asking for Janneh's prosecution, asking for a statement that because of the not just only because of the torture and killing, but in fact the incitement of violence by attacking tribes, to make a statement. And I can tell you, we pointed to when Goodluck Jonathan's wife made a statement, political statement, the ICC under her and herself wrote this thing to advise that first lady to stay away from making those statements. But when it comes to Janneh, we were told that the threshold wasn't there to prosecute Janneh. But when Janneh left, now the threshold is there. You see the political will? Now there's a political will for them to be seen as doing something against. That's the same thing. That's why I ask Gambians. We have seen the level and length Barrow have gone to in order to appease Janneh, in order for APRC to support him. We have seen heard about the millions. Now we have another Janneh Enabula, other speaker, former Speaker of the House, now at South Africa, who campaigned against us. Now, if all this, let's ask ourselves, if Janneh have agreed to support Barrow, what would have been the outcome today of the white people? Now, either it's an acknowledgement of insincerity of the negotiations, or he would have done it. Now, either way, why should we not hold that person even more, be more vigilant with that person? And it's the problem is yet again, Gambians should understand justice and this word reconciliation. Now, again, I'll come to the 300 million. You might think that I plug it out in the air because I thought about this. Imran, the word reconciliation. Gambia tribes have not been fighting each other. Communities have not been fighting each other. It's only recent communities the part of communities fighting each other is about land. It's not about hate for each other. It's about land, resources that could be resolved by making sure it's been judicated right. But the so-called reconciliations, we know that people that committed the crimes, we can identify them. They were part of a system. That system was architected and entrenched by a dictator. Now we can hold these people accountable. One thing that we can do to try to rebuild is to try to heal. And that healing process should come in many ways. And we might call it reconciliation. Now, if the government, the amount of millions the government have pumped in to be re-elected, they have a political will for that. But now, the money that belongs to the Gambian people through Janneh assets, if they have thought about it, we're talking about a monument, fine. What about every region in the Gambia to have a project dedicated for the victims? That this is coming from the victims. That there are Janneh properties in Banjul itself. Why can't we turn one of those distinct for a youth center? One, you come to KMC. There are properties in KMC. Why can't we turn that to youth centers? You go to Foni. There's a completely project. This includes a Janneh property. Can be turned into institutions. A hospitality institution. I mean, the science college there could be completed. I mean, things can be done. The farms everywhere else in Fuladu can be. The victim themselves might not even participate in the projects, but satisfied that due to my victimhood, my community is benefiting. It's not only what we give them directly, but we help them to heal. That a mother can say that the death of my son, death of my daughter today, or the rape of my son or daughter today, this is the symbol. The community benefit from it. And it does do something again. It does start to change the Gambian mindset. That if you have tragedy in your life, being that someone inflicted it or you whatever, you will remember that one thing to take out of it is to try to help to fight that. And just as when people have cancer in this country, they will try and do something for cancer charity. When they have a child been killed through violence, they will try to sensitize them. That's what this sense of community will come back. This is what reconciliation should be about. But not to take criminals to say that, oh, we have to forget and forget. That's a lie. Victims cannot just forget and forgive. It's a lie. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Unless we are storing problems for something to come up. And I am telling this to Gambians. If this white paper is not implemented, we'll be further down of failing our transitional justice. And if we fail the transitional justice, mean that our criminal justice system will fail. And we keep on wondering, why do we have the impunity in corruption? We keep on wondering, why do we have the impunity in human rights abuses? Why do you think the PIU are behaving this way still? Because Faraba happened, nothing came out of it. Other things happened, nothing came out of it. They can tear gas anybody, nothing will come out of it. But if they start to realize that the command people, structures, and people directly committing this crime are held accountable, next time you send in someone out, as a commander, you'll remember what happened to Ben Suwareh, what happened to Jesus, what happened to Mariam, what happened to Awa. And for the person to do the crime, they send you as a jungler or whatever. You said, oh, what happened to those junglers? What happened to those mercenary judges? What happened to those mercenary magistrates? This is why we need this justice. It's to avoid this happening again. And it never again can only happen in that way. Because of the Janneh Commission came and nothing has been done. Look at the corruption. Look at the corruption. Because people expect it to be done. All you have to do is just make sure you support government. If you go against government, you'll be punished. But if you support government, nothing comes out of it.
Thank you, Ben. I want people to know that it's good for government to accept the white paper, the TRRC recommendation in their white paper, but that's not an issue. That's a very easy way to do things, anyway, to come out and just announce we accept that, even though there's a lot of caveat around some of this, acceptance and all those. People fail to leave those things because that small details are there. When you read the report, the white paper, there's a lot of caveat. There was a lot of vagueness in a lot of, I accept this, we are going to do this, we're going to do this.
But there's no timeline when it's going to be done.
There's no timeline, there is no mechanism you can point. This is what is the accountability here and there. So, that's why, and our duty is to put pressure on the government so that, as you say, this country, the Labour is putting a lot of pressure. Probably even if Labour is in power, they will not going to do those things. But because, that's the beauty of being an opposition. You can say things and put pressure, and certain context will force those government. If not, there's even likely the conservative even to add the taxes and tax the poor, the rich people and all those things. Some of them were not happy about it. But one thing that they do very well is they will go against their own government, their just own employments, their own salaries, and all that for the sake of the country. And that is so important, and that wisdom and that decency is really, really Gambia. We are bereft of that so far in large number. As I say, there are individuals here and there, but majority are just keeping quiet. Ben, but and you're from a security, that's your expertise and all those things, like many other things. We are seeing now, I can say Gambia is just, kneeling on a powder cake of disaster, because we see the attack on the shrine of the Lady of Peace in Kunkujang. We see, this different faction of Islamic, scholars and mullahs and all those things with a lot of followers attacking each other. Also, we saw the some of the parts. There is this whole summit against the Ahmadis, and some of the words that were spoken by Imam Fati yesterday. It's just shocking for that to happen in any country, and there is no movement from the security, from the government, in order to temper or to arrest or to question or to kind of caution him and say this is getting out of control. So, and Ben, we see the jihadis are in many parts of West Africa, and they are well equipped, they are well trained, they have a lot of funding. Wherever that funding is coming out from, we don't know. And their aim is to convert the whole of West Africa into an Islamic state and all those things. Our leaders went to Equatorial Guinea, and what they were talking about to insulate themselves is about the unconstitutional, change of power and all those things, But to abrogate the constitution and change it, to kind of canceling the town limit. They didn't talk about those. They didn't talk about some of these things. The jihadists, they are expounding how they can collaborate to stop them expanding and all those things. But this is very possible in the Gambia with the current trajectory. What is happening in the Gambia is going into flame. If this government, I know the government is calculating, they are thinking about this is a Muslim majority and all that, but what they are saying cannot be acceptable. At some point, because when even Imam Fati was saying, let people go and learn karate and judo and all those things, because they have to go against the Ahmadiyas, they are liars and all those things. This is what happened in Rwanda, where people are calling certain sectors cockroaches and all those things, because if you say, and then he was crying, he was saying there will be religions here that will come and insult God, and he pretended he's crying and all those things, So these things are very, very, very dangerous. Couple this with the economic, catastrophic economic failure and the price of things that are, going, at the top of the roof, and government is doing, they have no solution. They are not even talking about it, Ben. I saw you say, the fares of the travelers, the fares are mounting, the petrol, everything, and the government is not even talking about that. Give us the analysis in terms of and how important the security sector reform is, but these governments are not going to do this, Ben. Can you contextualize this and give your opinion?
Okay, thank you very much. That's why, let me start from somewhere, and this is where Gambians should be very careful of. I used to tell Gambians, be careful. The presence of economic does not mean that it's an absolute guarantee that the country cannot be destabilized. That's a lie. And the longer economic stay, what we call mission creep will come in. And mission creeps come in, you are less effective in operation. And mission creeps would affect a lot of things, psychologically, even the soldiers. Preparedness and everything else, complacency. Let's go on. And the civil military relationship and the relationship between government forces or Gambian security personnel against economic. All these things are problems. But people should always remember, Gambia is not an island. I mean, it's a sovereign nation. but what happened in our region affects us. That's why when we look at things, we should look at it in perspective of Gambia and the perspective of the geopolitical dimensions. And the main problem here that the ECOWAS community leaders don't have a moral courage anymore, because they have entertained. In the early mid-90s, we started to see revival, change, democratic change happening. I mean, from military rule to civilian rule, from Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Liberia coming on, but now we haven't seen the reverse. But they divided because of what? Democracy was undermined by the same people that benefit from democracy, by going on constitutional coups, be it Alpha Conde, constitutional coup, be it Ouattara, constitutional coup. And these countries, let's give it example of these countries, they went, Ivory Coast went to civil war, in fact, in order for Ouattara to be president. But look at it, he went for constitutional coup. He's 8 years old. We see the same thing in Guinea-Conakry. Guinea-Conakry nearly went to civil war for Conde to be president, constitutional coup. And this trend is going on. But instead of coming out to stop that happening, no, because it's a boys' club. Now Senegal is going through the same constitutional coup. And you see tomorrow, there's going to be a big demonstration in Senegal. What's going to happen? How many people are going to die? But you will not hear ECOWAS intervene, statements, visits, and everything to avoid that happening, because that's what Macky Sall wants. Now, if we think that our security is part of these countries, and all these countries are technically been destabilized, now what should we think of? Do we have anything in order to take care of ourselves? No, because that's why we still have economic in the country. As you pointed, security sector reform completely failed. There's no tangible evidence of any success. They cannot show you anything to point out this is the success. We have seen the crime rate in the country, but let's come back to the most important, the most urgent one here: Islamic fundamentalists. I'm not sure whether I've shared with you before. Just after the takeover, I made a security assessment, and I made 7 points. And that 7 points started as the dealing with the Janneh, after Janneh effects, to Islamic dissing, Islamization and terrorism, up to Gambia-Senegal relationship. Everything was captured. And if you look at what have happened in other countries, I don't want to go far to Pakistan, but just to give Gambian example of Pakistan, be Karachi, be Islamabad, be all these things where used to be a this thing, even though they demarcated themselves to be an Islamic country. Have they ever succeeded as an Islamic nation? No. Tell me a country that have ever succeeded moving from wherever they came to be an Islamic nation. Right now, Saudi Arabia itself, I'm not saying about Mecca, people have to understand that. The Saudi government, have decided, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but they decided to modernize. In fact, going to the extreme of what people are running from, because that's what they think they need to do. I'm not saying that's right, but just to show, give you context on this. Now we come to the Gambia, we see examples of how it started in Nigeria. Let me take Nigeria as an example. Nigeria have their complex the same, but the northern Nigeria is technically the same people. It's only 3 states, Borno State, 3 states in Nigeria which are within the borders of the Northwest that have even a sizable amount of Christians in them. Rest of the states that have Christians, most of the Christians went to that area as technocrats, as civil servants. That's why they're there. And these people live amicably, no problem at all. Until this Wahhabi system started to work there. But they could not have prospered if the government, politicians did not support them. When they were coming to democratization, and Obasanjo and the other guy were running for office, they normally have two parties running against each other. Both of them came from the south. They are Christians. What Obasanjo did was, because he had a good relationship with the North. Remember, he used to be a military president, this thing, and his deputy was Yaradua. Yaradua was from the North. And he used religion. And Obasanjo is a born-again Christian. But he decided to work with this schools that were the Islamic schools sponsored by Saudi Arabia within the country, within the North, which these institutions, first, the country was not governed right, the poverty, social problems, and everything there. And these Islamic institutions came to run orphanages, to run madrasas. You see? And it's the same way they operated in Pakistan by the things when Afghanistan have a they came and run these things. And they were seen as socially helping with problems. You see, they're running orphanages, running madrasas. People would offload their family, their children to them, so that the burden would go, away from them. But these students were indoctrinated to be intolerant. Do you know intolerant of what? The Sufi. That's the backbone of Islam in northern Nigeria. Remember the Sultan of Sokoto. Remember Omar Danfodio and the Tijaniya movement in this thing. They but when they first started, they went against something. That's where the Boko Haram came in to say they are against Western education. They did not say they are against Tijaniya. They did not against Sufi. They always choose a weaker link against Western education. Now, I'll bring the parallel. At that time, Obasanjo went and make a deal with them. And politicians, if you guys and so I win, I'll give you an autonomy so that you can have your Sharia states. This is how it started. Go and look at the timeline. Now, at that time, they started to arm them. The politicians armed Boko Haram. They started to arm them to intimidate their rivals within the community. Not only that, to do insurgencies to intimidate rivals of the neighboring states. From Adama Awa, these states, I've written a document on this. When this happened, Obasanjo win, they give him power. But the minute they give them more power, they take more. Now, it's not about Western education. Now they want a total form of governance. Now they want to govern themselves. They don't want to be part of governance. They want to govern themselves now. And the banditry and everything took over. Now the parallel is here. When Yahya Jammeh was in power, today someone just shared something. In 2021, Imam Chebo Cham came out to say, at times you have to kill people to govern. You see? They went with Yahya Jammeh and supported anything Yahya Jammeh said or do. Are these people with us? What moral courage these people have? No, they don't have moral courage. We saw them when poverty was everywhere and everything. They are taking money in tons. Within their own organization, the so-called Supreme Islamic Council, they cannot even work together. But what they were doing, they were fighting among each other. And how many other imams? How many imams were picked up? Until 2016, when we took over, imams were still in prison. Did they ever intervene? Those imams, what have they done wrong? Nothing. And these imams are not Ahmadiyas. No. One of the imams was Sarahule in Kanifing. All he said was, don't keep on coming to dig the grave in the night. They're stopping the junglers to do that. The other imam was in this thing. And they never.
Ismail Manjan, one of the towering respected Islamic scholars, in Benjur was arrested.
Ture of Bilkama.
Yes, being tortured unnecessarily.
Yeah, but did we ever hear these people go against Jammeh to say this is wrong? But anything Jammeh does, they endorse it. Anything Janneh does, they endorse it. You see, now these people became patrons. They were, and now they benefited. Go and see the luxury they live in. But you cannot see anything tangible these people have ever advanced in the community. I know that this is very difficult. When you say it, people think you are talking against Islam. But I'll tell you, I've been around for a long time, not only to learn and understand. I know there are young people today who believe in these people because of out of ignorance. And if you say ignorant, they think you insult them. They think they believe in what they say because they don't have a perspective of what is happening. Now they are picking on Ahmadiyas. And you have seen the way they frame it. They're trying to paint everything on Ahmadiyya, or they are attacking people, they are disrespectful, they are this, they are this. But the Ahmadiyyas have been in the Gambia for 100 years. How comes in the first republic we didn't know about their disrespect? What did we associate? What we have the evidence? What did we associate with the Ahmadiyyas? And how many Ahmadiyyas are in the country anyway? They are a minority.
That's what I'm gonna say. Ahmadiyyas are not growing. They're kind of stagnant even though they are doing all these things. They are
how many Gambians?
Yes.
How many thousands of Gambians have attended Ahmadiyya institutions and have never been Ahmadiyyas? They are Christians. They are different form of Muslims, and they have never. The Ahmadiyyas and others are here. They never become Ahmadiyyas.
At TRRC, one of the imams was asked, he said his own son went to Ahmadiyya school. If he went to Nusrat High School, nothing happened to him. If they are liars, if they change people and become rude, because that's what Imam Fatih said in his speech, why is all these Muslim people went there and they're Muslims, they're not Ahmadis, But then another thing is these people have been attacking almost everybody. This didn't start with the Ahmadis.
No, I'll come to that.
Go ahead.
Now, they're picking on these Ahmadis and framing it as making a case, or in Badibu here, in this thing happened, this happened. Even if it happens, isolated cases, they want to bring it to the mainstream as this is the Ahmadis. But we don't recognize that Ahmadis. I'm not an Ahmadiyya. I'm not an Tijan. I am nothing of that sect. I don't want to be labeled for any sect because I know what I believe in is in here. It's not what is decorated of me. It's my behavior that should count for who I am. My beliefs should be inside. But now, and you see the argument they move it, or if people talk about, they say Ahmadiyya do this, and he gave an example. He said the MRC did this much. But look at this. He did not say that they did this much. What have they done for Gambia? There are some good boarding schools in the Gambia, Islamic boarding schools, who are trying to make sure the students not only get the Islamic knowledge, but to have a way to be able to live a good life here, and which is very important. But there are Islamic institutions that are not run properly. We know of accusation of pedophilia. We know of a lot of things happening. And this is not a makeup. Investigation have been done. Did you ever hear them go and try to solve those problems? We have this problem within the Islamic distance, no. But they are attacking. Even the majority Muslims, they're calling them. They are minority. They will come and tell you that, what they call it is haram. Gamo is haram. They will call you, say this thing is haram, that is haram. And they are saying that now, you think that if these people have power, they will let you practice that? They were going to ban it. When they have power, they will ban that. Then they will be against Tijaniya, they will be against Muridiya, they will be against any other sect. This is how they govern everywhere else. That's what they did in Pakistan. That's what they did in everywhere else. Now, if you come to Islam, I'm not going to go far in that, but three things we can count. One, they say there's no compulsion in Islam. Two, believe in what you believe and let other people believe in what they believe. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam have neighbors who were non-believers. He have never attacked them. In fact, when he did not see them, he go and check on them. Now, where are these people taking their doctrine? And the same thing, you talk, if they come with their statement, you answer, they say that you should not. They should hold the Ahmadiyyas accountable. But if you come and say, no, they have a right to believe what they believe, Oh no, because they are part of, they claiming to be Muslim. If they claim to be Muslim and not doing the right thing, this is not a Sharia state. That's not for you to police. We are governed by a constitution. And as I said, these people, we know who they are. It's not that they're doing this because of they're doing it for the right reason. We have seen their check history with Yaya. And when Yaya even pushed some of them, they didn't have a choice. Barrow came, and during the campaign, they went and campaigned for Barrow. And still, because they want something. Today, if Ben Suwareh becomes president, you'll be surprised. They will come and they'll be part of the establishment. But still now, they don't want that enough. They want to take over. And obviously, there are people influencing them. But you will never see their funding. You never see what they do with their funding. Other institutions are building good institutions. And you see the Islamic institutions that are functional right. You don't hear them going up after this. They are teaching the kids. They are doing something. You don't see them. But these are the only people you see them. And they always say part of, that's why they're fighting to be part of Islamic Council, Supreme Islamic Council. It's the influence that government gives them. This is where the problem is. But it's up us Gambians. If you against Ahmadiyas, you'll be against Christians. If you against Christians and Ahmadiyya, you'll be against Tijaniya. If you against this, you'll be against Muriya, because we all practice religion differently. We might call ourselves Muslims, but there's no one school of thought. Now, why should you say that one school of thought should be the only to determine? You have the Hanafis, you have the Sufis, you have the different things. You have different imams, even within the Sunnah, you have people taking onto different imams. And the Gambia government would not do anything or say anything until something happens, because they don't want to offend these people, because they are the people that they will rely on for their votes. Just as what I explained in Nigeria, this is how it comes about. It's about they taking it in part of politics, they become part of corruption and everything else. But if we treasure our future, these things should not be encouraged. Let the Ahmadiyya be until they break a law. Let other people be until they break a law. They have not broken the law of the Gambia. Gambia is a secular state. We have a constitution. We go by the constitution. If you're not comfortable with how I believe, leave me alone. That's what it says in Gulaya or Kafiruna. Leave me alone. You see, I am not even your child. But even your child, there's a time you can have an influence on them.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And then these Ahmadiyas are our brothers, they are not people from the sky or anywhere. Where are they going to go? They are Gambians. You have families, like part of my family are Christian, some don't believe in anything. Ahmadiyas, some are Muslims, some are Ahmadiyas, the same family, the same people. What are you going to do with these people? But as you said, we have a spineless governments, that wine and dine with these people and empower them. Because if not, all this money that are coming, that's why I think, the Africanization of things is so important. And this happens and it's working a lot in Senegal. The Tijanis and all those that we ridicule, we think they are not Muslim enough. But those people, I think they have their brand. And they are not after their brothers. You can be Tijani, you can be Sirimbamba side, Murid, or whatever. But if you have the Wahhabis, the Sufis, that we don't even know who are they, and they are just pumping and nothing is regularized. People will be on Facebook, they will be looking for money and all those things. Somebody is talking to me, telling me, Ben, I'm giving education to divorced women, and all those. You're man. All these divorced women, you cover them like nobody's, whatever they are, and there's an economic undertone to this, because those people, they don't have any employment. Government don't integrate the Arab system with these things, and they are not mainstream. They are not employed. They have to find a way out. And if that means raping people, if that means whatever to bring.
And Ebrima, we have to. You see, that's where the government should think about this. Under harsh economic conditions, that's where these social things or religious things can easily fuel destabilization. Hitler became relevant because of the economic depression that they had then. You see, even if you do criminology and understand it well, you look at what happened in France with the terrorism, I mean, Islamic terrorism, whatever the brand is. I mean, the people born in France and became radicalized. You see, and if you look at United Kingdom, the same people that became radicalized, where did they study or what pushed them? And some of these people would be radicalized from prison or from certain environment. You see, marginalized communities. But the people, this is the mainstream. This is the mainstream. Doesn't mean that extension doesn't happen from a very first middle class white background become radicalized. But again, look at that person. There's a reason that led them to be radicalized. That's been marginalized in one form or another. You see, that's why this government should take this seriously. We have a lot of unemployed youths. We have a lot of youths who are easily being impressed on. There's a lot of youths trying to find their way. And it all will start on this. It's all going to start on this. And when the president said that Madi Jobato was trying to tell the Kabi, Madi did not say this. Now this person of to learn karate, to learn kung fu, to do this, to fight who? You are calling for a fight. This is inciting violence. Why do you expect people to fight? Why can't people have a dialogue? If you think that your belief is superior, spread it. Look at in the Gambia today. How many people have converted? And because of what? They believe in something, they convert to that. Nobody forced them to convert. If you think why would Sunnis feel threatened in the Gambia? Because we are the majority. Ahmadiyas have been in the Gambia for 100 years. What growth do they have? They have provided of social service that did not make them to grow that far. If people who attended Ahmadi schools become Ahmadiyya, today they would have from how many percentage of the population?
But Ben, you had Imam Fadi making an argument because he knows most of those students didn't turn to Ahmadiyyas. They even reject Ahmadiyyas, even though they went to Nusrat High Schools and all the Jamatu High School in Basse and all that, because my uncle went to Basse, and he remained a Muslim. He has no influence whatsoever. But he said most of the people in position went through Nusrat High School. They have some sympathy for Ahmadiyyas. So that's why they give Ahmadiyyas the radio. These are citizens, So now the narrative he is carving here is Ahmadiyyas are people from Pakistan, But these Ahmadiyyas are own brothers. They have every right. If anybody can have a radio in the Gambia, why not Gambian citizens who are either Christians and all that? But as you said, everybody else turned to being Muslim in the Gambia. The Manjagos, the other tribes will marry and they will come and be Muslims. And we celebrate that and all those things. Hardly you see a Muslim converting into any of these people. So why carving out these things? Because these people want to be relevant. Probably the attention Janneh gave them in terms of dishing out back of money to them, they are not having that, and they are doing all kinds of. Ben, we're going to come back to this because we have a lot to do. But the current issue that is on the table now is the gun petrol saga. The gun petrol saga. Ben, because the government form and multi-sector task form to inquire into this, because the monumentness, the giganticness of the fraud that goes into this in the Gambia, and Gambia people should have been crying and shouting on their leaders because of the amount of corruption and the amount of money that goes missing in thin air in that small country. Is so unbelievable. This amount of money can just go, and we have about only 2 people. But the people who are in this, the Abubakar Jawara, the Khadija Tukebe, the Sehu Drames, and all those things, all these links to the president, and we didn't see the president coming out and with certainty to come and condemn these things and set example. Because some of these things are so under his own roof. So even if he's not part of it, and he's so quiet as a church mouse, and just not doing anything, and this big question, why is the president not talking about these things? In these 5 years, the amount of corruptions, the allegations and all those things, that are just a landmine in this country. Only Banja, a low class somebody was
No, and Banja case, they deliberately
Yes.
did not do it right again because they only took Banja, and Banja was not the only one responsible, and that's why they could not convict Banja.
Exactly, Mr. And I'm surprised because the shareholders of Gum Petroleum consist of Social Security, which is 45.3%.
Yeah.
Gambia Port Authority 14%, GNPC 12.90%, and Star Oil 24.8%. And yesterday you were asking about the Sandali. Sandali is an oil is a sole trader in Gunjur.
Okay.
With the petrol station and all those things, So I'm going to tell you today, is a brother who has his own petrol station there.
No,
so
I said I never heard of the name.
I just heard of them.
I never heard of the name.
Exactly. So Ben, give us a synopsis of the Gum Petroleum saga and the facadeness of the code that is going on. Just victimizing two people. I'm not saying they should not be victimized and all those things, but give us a context to this.
Okay, thank you very much for this. If you follow my programs, you follow what I do. I want Gambians to remember in around May 2021, President Barrow visited Gum Petroleum to say that he's going on a fact-finding mission because to Gambianize Gum Petroleum. At that time, the now Minister of Finance is the Minister of Trade. Okay. When that happened, I raised a red alert. Gambia, be careful. Gum Petroleum is going to go. Because that's why I said, when you want to understand Gambian perspective, you have to understand global. At that time, I knew about Mali trying to get more petrol from us. You see, we have an opportunity to develop. But because of Mali, we don't want to, there's certain things Mali don't want to depend on Senegal for petrol. And again, Bissau wanted to get more petrol from us. But at the same time, there's a pipeline being built in Ivory Coast. But that pipeline is having problem to come to serve, the supplies for Mali. Then Gambia have to be quick to get a lot from this market before it goes. Now, well, I knew about that. And next minute, Barrow made an interest at Gum Petroleum. And knowing Barrow and the people around him, I smelled something was about to happen. I made a red alert. You see, at times I post something online, people don't get it. I do it as a red alert because I know there are patriotic people within the system. And they will engage me. And from that engagement, we develop the story and try to get to the crux of everything. When I did that, that's how it came about. Yes, this cabal are trying to take over Gum Petroleum. This word Gambianization. Already, Gum Petroleum, as you said, are run by shareholders. But there was another shareholder, which was Basi, Mohamed Basi. Yeah? And Yaya Jammeh give Basi a way to run that company because Basi recommended the general manager. Basi's son was the operational director, and they run the place for their interest and Jammeh. Now, Barrow wanted the same thing. When the Janneh Commission recommended the 24% that Basi owned to be sold, Social Security and Gambia and Ports Authority wanted to buy those shares. You think that any government would not decide for the state-owned enterprises to buy those shares? No. What they did is Star Oil, part of Petro Dissing, they are Senegalese Mauritanians. They are, you see, I don't want to bring the tribe element here, but it's important. They are Tukulors, Senegalese Mauritanians who are connected to Barrow. And by the same extent, if things were not even, if we have not even intervened, there would be more. And they can be more. They are trying to take the old supply chain and control it. And Barrow, through the First Lady and Barrow, they make sure this 24% went to Star Oil. Star Oil bought the 24% instead of this. Now they have an interest in there. It went on. Then after 2 months, the same cabal, and this involved Mohamed Dia, Idi Job, and others, some of the companies you can hear that. The same cabal were had this deal in Saudi Arabia, in Dubai. Do you remember that Dubai trip that I had to intervene and they cancel it? That Dubai trip have many components, because in that trip, in fact, there was a group, and that's why they canceled it. There was a group in the trip associated with Barrow who were smuggling gold and probably, with information we have, gold was definite and probably drugs to Dubai. But the other group were for business. They already went even advanced party. Idijob and others went, Mohammed went advanced party. Everything was set. But we knew the deal was not anything good for us. I went out there. And that's how they canceling. Did they go back on the trip? No. But obviously they will find a way to rearrange. The entire dispute of Gum Petroleum, as I said, I am not holding forth for anybody. What I know is a cabal. Different cabal. Two people cannot be responsible. If they play a part, it should be proven in the court of law. But they are alleged to have played a part. Now, the other groups that play a part should be brought into this court. But the reason that other groups should not be going through the system is that Barrow and this government would be implicated. Because this cabal, we all know how much Mohammed gave Barrow for elections and campaign. We have seen the evidence. And every one of these companies supported the president. And it went through Musa Drame, who was the treasurer for the NPP. When people are, where NPP get all this money, this is how they get the money. Now, when all this happened, they form a task force. But the task force was headed by the Minister of Trade. The Minister of Trade is part of the cabal because the Minister of Trade was recommended to Barrow by Mohammed. They are friends. You see, cabal into a cabal. Now, you have, what you call it, Pura. Puras that should be independent to make sure what done. Pura, the person Yusufa Job there, is a friend of Mohammed. You see? Now, you see how they control everything else? This is the same way they have control our media. That's why this case too, you will not see much of interest in the media. They will just pass this thing. But what a journalist should have done, they are not doing that. That's why I'm trying my little bit of time to come to put the spotlight on it. Now, they are taking these two people to court. But the case, the people supposed to be taken to court, they are not taken to court. Now, because of the case here, the crux of the case is theft. Now, you have to prove the case beyond reasonable doubt for someone to be guilty. Now, how do you prove theft? That the person have intentionally taken someone's property that is not lawful to take and to deprive the person that owns the property permanently. This is what the court is looking at. But how can you prove that when the person that facilitated the theft, the person who went and picked the items, because the managing director would not go and pick it up. The director, this thing would not go and different, would not be the driver, would not be this. And they did not drink if they stole the petrol, they did not drink the petrol. The petrol was consumed. Now, if you don't bring the people that received the stolen goods to testify that they deceived, but those people will not come because then they will be thieves as well. Because they themselves knowingly took part in a conspiracy system. Because they are a company. They should know the rules, regulations, procedures, laws to govern buying and selling. If they don't follow that, they break the law. Now, how can you bring two people? You do not bring anybody else who facilitate. You don't bring anybody else who bought these things to court. This is where the problem is, because it's cattle. They don't want to expose them to the cattle. But now, why did this thing even happen? They triggered, a Ponzi scheme, like a pyramid scheme. A pyramid like that, it goes, build with that confidence that, I put, like the Osusu, I put my money and down the line, I'll get it. But if one person fails to pay, what does it do? Problem arises and confidence and this is what occurred. What I suspect, that again, this is my analysis. The system, they were all in the system. Now they are not happy. Somehow they want to take over the system. They could not take over the system. Now let's break the system. That's why in the proceedings you will hear Star Oil, which is conflicting. Star Oil is on the board, and Star Oil, this is which is they are competing with others. This is a conflict of interest. But Star Oil again wrote a letter to the government, to the board, to try to take their staff to occupy the position of the director of operations. Is that not what do they want? Take over. Now the talk over failed. Let's cause something to bring this two down, because probably they are too smart for our liking. Now what we do is let's do that, and they triggered it by holding up supplies. One, but already the stock is with people. Now where are those people? Now if to prove the case, just go and bring it. It was sold to Ben Suwareh here. It cannot vanish. But they did not do that. But secondly, this government, the government allowed the debt to be settled by doing what? Mortgaging Gam Petroleum. Now, what we should ask ourselves, I am still finding out. And if anybody want to know, let me know. Who did they mortgage Gam Petroleum to? That should be our interest. If it's one of the cartel members, then just proven my analysis or belief that the cartel is taking over. Have you seen that news about about 100 tankers are coming? How many tankers now are coming to Mandinari? Someone in Mandinari wrote that and showed you the tankers from Mali. This was the anticipation. You remember what I told you? The anticipation, that's what I follow. This is how I follow my stories. I get something, I dedicate time with my experience, and people with their trust, they confide in me. And I do it for Gambians to be aware of what is happening. That's why when they come to tell us that we are different, because you are a Mandinka, I'm a Fula, or you are a Wolof, I'm a Mandinka, you are different because you're from Gunjur, I'm from Bakau. That's not true. That's not a difference. That's what unifies of some matter, because of there's no indigenous Mandinka that doesn't have a Fula blood in them. There's no indigenous Fula that doesn't have Mandinka in them. We live in the Gambia.
Yeah, definitely.
What affects Gunjur would affect Bakau. What affects Bakau will affect Gunjur and wherever it is. Then these people don't represent that what they do. That's why they pick on that, and we fight on this. But the issue of corruption is what is undermining our democracy. And issue of corruption, that is what is destabilizing our country. And the problems, we always go out there to talk of the symptoms. We talk about the break-ins, youth alcohol, all these things, but we forget that there's something, a root cause to this. We are talking about women using sniper on Bunga. You think that those women do it because they want to poison us?
No, not at all. Not
that.
I have a video, an audio of one of the women. That's what he says. He's saying, this is their livelihood. The whole purpose of not spreading directly, they put it in water and spread it on the dry fish, but to stop the flies getting in, because when the flies get in, they create all kind of maggots and all those things. So in essence, they want to protect the consumers.
Let me give you a context of that. That's why I said we should look at the root cause. In 1994, the PPP government had a program, and that was they have a program called the Coastal Fisheries Project.
Yes.
And they have a program called the Rural Fisheries, something. That's why they have Foni Bintang, Kuinala, and certain places. They were developing an infrastructure that people can do things, benefit from the marine resources. That's how Bakau became, some places in Gunju and other places, Tanje became. Now, what did they provide? They provide access to the beach. They provide facilities to preserve. They provide facilities, even boats and training by the Japanese. They did all that. But another component they did in Bakau and other places, they prepared place that the fish would be dried, fish would be processed, I mean, the smoking and everything. And during that time, women were taught the hazardous material not to be used. You know, we are talking about sniper, but someone came out with an audio. Actually, we are worrying from the other end that tires, car tires, have been used to burn to smoke, and that's toxic, cancerous agents. Now, you see, the failure. What PPP was trying to do was that the value chain, would be looked after. Now, even then, the women would have ownership. Women would have product. I mean, what they do would be productive. They would make profits. They would be sustainable. You know, they would not need to go to the extreme to save this thing. And there were even vehicles, ice cold vehicles that take fish from this thing and go to the provinces to sell. But Yaya Jammeh came, the infrastructure broke. Now that's why we needed to rehabilitate that infrastructure. But what did this government do with fisheries, apart from selling our fish and allowing Chinese to do whatever they like? Now, we will run to blame the woman, but we don't even try to understand this woman position, that it's not intentional. There are systemic failure, there are structural failure, there are capacity failure. This thing here, did we sensitize them? And remember too, that woman is doing, as she said, is desperate. You have to take money. If a woman invests $500 for a stock, you think if they lose half of that stock, what will happen to them?
Definitely.
They'll be out of business.
They're just out of business, yes.
Now, out of desperation, they will not think of the effect. That's their mindset then of what I'm doing to other people. And someone was saying they will not eat it. That's a lie. I bet you that 90% of them will eat the same fish.
No. They because they cannot. The majority
cannot. Because they're bad people.
When this woman was talking about, feeding her kids, with the proceed of that place, and sometimes, if you put, this sniper in the water, during the rainy season and wipe your tiles or in your rooms, flies don't come in and all those things, so they were explaining all this. So, you have to, but at the end of the day, what our people, there is a systemic failure here. Yeah. Our governments has failed, catastrophically. The cold storage and all that. As you say, there's no firewood now. People are struggling to smoke their feces. The fish cannot be smoked. They use anything that they can use, and what that the bonga will not be dry enough, because if it is dry enough, the flights can do nothing to it anyway. Then we have to go. I have to tell the Gam Petrol, the whole purpose of the Gam Petrol in the Gambia is a storage facility that store of the petroleum products and all those things. We are going to come back to this, Ben, because we don't have much time now, I think. But the last thing that I'm going to do is the Malagan story. I see, Mustafa says, the silence epidemics in the Gambia. That's the road accident. He says it's the 7th highest cause of death in the country, and reportedly costs economic loss of over $2 billion every year. He said, enviably, the Gambia is the world's 4th worst place to be on the road. Worst in the world, 4th. He said, yet, as Chief Surgeon, Mr. Marena says, explained, we have one hospital, the Edward Francis Small, that has a trauma unit, which look after the serious accidents and injuries. And there are only 3 native orthopedic surgeons for a population of 2.5 million. But we are not contextualizing these things. So the failure of this government and the failure of, and the seriousness of, the secretariats lagging behind in the race to successfully deliver the OIC 2022 summit, you can see the danger of it, the intermarriage here, the failure. Because probably when we have this and we have all the fancy road that they promise us, this road accident that is killing a lot of people and costing about $2 billion every year, in the Gambia, and Gambia is ranked the 4th, So the failure of this government, and so when you say the IOC, they fail, and people say, yes, they can have it in Senegal and all those things, and our football stadium now is being mortgaged to Senegal now, then this is serious. This is why people will think, we are negative. We don't hate this government. And then before I go, the tribal thing, because they come in here and pull these things into our public discourse and distract us. We are tribes and we are fullers and other. Man, my father's mom is a fuller. He's a Tukulor from Kosemar.
Yeah.
Who will know that? I am Janneh. Anytime you see, for example, if you see Janneh there, you say he's a Mandinka and all those things. Don't you see the connection? From me and my father's mom, direct mom. So most of the Gambians, that's how we are. Tribalism is not our problem. It's the leaders, it's the political stability, it's the political people and the business people who want to control our economy and render us poor and poor for the rest of our lives, bringing these things into our communities. You are fuller here, you Wolof there, and all those things. Those are not our issues. The issue is the leadership that failed catastrophically. Look at this road accident. And if you juxtapose this side by side with the failure of OIC, that's where you see how serious these things is, for us and as a people, and how failure the OIC will cost the Gambia, because the debts will continue, the economic loss will continue. When you get wounded, you go to hospital, there's nothing there. There's no capacity. And the government doesn't care.
Do you know part of the OIC component was in fact to upgrade part of the accident and emergency to trauma of the hospital, because that's part of the requirements. And part of the OIC now, even we just took a loan from Islamic Development Bank, and the OIC was meant for us to get a lot of grants, not loans, the goodwill. But if you put the wrong people in a place, they're not able to do it. Most of the projects should have been paid for nothing, just as Senegal did and other countries did. And they end up owning it. But let's come back to it. Just as, we come back to when we talk about road accidents. And, when we talk about security sector reforms, people don't get it. I mean, you should ask ourselves, what's the role of the police? Life, property. Life, property, peace. And why did they fail? Because the government failed. There's no reforms.
And they're now blaming the foreigners. They're now blaming the foreigners now. What you said, Ben, I remember you said, it's wrong to give a Gambian document to foreigners. And people came after you and all those things. They said you shouldn't say that and all those. The same government now, Ahmad Ba said it, is the beggars are foreigners and all those things. Now, we see King Koli saying the same thing and all those things, and they are blaming those things.
That's how they do things, to distract us. Now, if you look at the problem with the police, I empathize with the police a lot. Bro, we are all Gambians and human for that matter. I don't know of any, let's say 90% of people that will leave their houses to say that I am going out there to be useless. I'm going out there to be shameless. I am going out there to be disrespected. No. I know what I know from experience is of 90, 100% that people I joined in the service with, they wanted to do something different and to benefit themselves and of his community. That's why they left their homes. And if those people turn up to be junglers, they were not brought up to be junglers. I'll tell you that. And that's how I know people. I know people that are found to be a part of the jungler. I'm not going to name the person's name here, but the mother and father are the most generous, and he is completely different from any member of his family. And he was brought up in the same household, the same condition. But he went to the forces. And what happened? There was a system. And he fall into the system because he was agile, he was brave in a sense, he can do things, and he was mold. And he went, before he joined the services, he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke. He was not a womanizer. But, when he went to the services, he was mold to be all this. And that's why if you look at the background of people that committed silent crime, you can see what they did to them in the institutions. Now, that's why I say I have empathy for the police officers and all these people when they go out there is to do a job. But as individuals, they cannot make the police work. Police is an institution. then the policymakers are there to ensure the police work, because they dictate the policy that govern the police. They dictate the resources that will go to the police. They dictate even the terms and conditions of employment for the police. They dictate the promotions and people to be employed and to be distinct. Up to the point of IG, in fact, the president have the prerogative to appoint. Now, if we fail, we cannot accuse individual police officers. If we see them doing something failure, they have a responsibility. But if it is a norm, almost 100% of them, hey, let us be true here. We have to understand. That's why I said security sector reform failed because of leadership. Reforms are leadership-led. Reforms to benefit from momentum. And that political will, it's not there. Now, just as everything else, the security sector reform, they use it as a way of enriching themselves, use it as a way of, oh, I don't want to take this bit because it works for us. I don't want to take the PIU, it works for us, so that when the opposition come out, we can get them. When something come out, we get it. The mindset and everything, we want it to be this way. You see, this is what have happened. Now, if the police was reformed properly and modernized, they have them, and then they would have priorities and they would have been effective. Everything that, if you look at the root causes of these accidents, what would be driving license? Driving license. 2 would be the road safety authority. This is not only the police, we have the road authority. Some of the roads are not maintained. Some of the roads, these things are not signage are not there to prevent what you have the issue of the traffic control, and all these things can be looked at and make sure something is done about it. Now let's take an example. If a vehicle leaves the port authority loaded to the brim, unsafe, the port authority should have been held responsible for leaving the vehicle to leave. But it leaves it over this thing, port authority. Does that truck not go to Denton Bridge? It goes through a checkpoint. But it's allowed to go through the checkpoint. And how many checkpoints would that truck go through before it gets an accident in Bikram?
A lot.
Then you tell you that there's something not working here. And why that thing is not working. You see, these are the things. The other thing is some accidents happen in the night. Against road safety issues might be there. But again, intoxication.
Yes.
Do we have breathalyzer?
No, they don't care about that, you know. They don't want
now,
to.
How many times did you hear someone been prosecuted for drink driving? Especially in the time of holidays. Yeah. These are all issues that would need to be.
Brother Ben, I think, you know, we're almost 2 hours here. So I'm going to wrap it up. You know, I was going to just brought up to bring on the table the oil spillage in Mandinaring, nearly 70,875 liters, you know, are spilled, and the government is not talking about it anyway. But I will urge people to go and read the points editorial. You know, then they will know. I think we need to read and familiarize ourselves. If not, if we don't bring these things up, the government will just put this and brush them under the carpet.
Yeah.
You know, and things will be there, and we will be dying gradually and slowly until things goes out of control, and knee-jerk reaction will come, and it will be too late because lives will be lost, environment will be destroyed. You know, but the whole purpose of this is, if we have a good government, they will turn your dwarfs into giants. If you have a bad government, your giants can be turned into dwarfs. They can be turned into corrupt people. Suddenly your good people can be turned into bad people because of the system that you have. And we have to aim for systemic change in that country. And one way to do that is to hold the government accountable. We don't hate the government. We are all brothers. We are all one. You know, they use all these kind of distractions because of the amount, the monumental damage that they are doing to the economy. And this means this will reflect to people's life. People are dying. Preventable diseases, things that should be preventable, like road accidents and all those things, because of the government failure. If those governments are within 5 years, everybody that's serving the cabinet, in the parliament and all those have become millionaires. They're building towers, building houses, good cars and all those things, but the saddest thing, the self-inflicted damage that we are doing, any of those people, no matter how rich they are, they want their kids to go out of that country. They want their sick parents and sick families to go out of that country. So that's some of today's program. That means nothing is working in that country. If not, who want to separate with your wife, or you have two wives and you send one wife to America and all those things, any opportunity that you have, you take your people outside that country because that country is not working properly. So why should we fight ourselves because your surname is this? The irony is a Ture cannot be Mandinka now, a Janneh cannot be Mandinka now, a Bojang or whatever, a Jaju now is not even a Jola. Even Jajus are not Jolas and all those things. So that's tell you how mixed we are as a people. For these small clique of people, less than 1%, that control almost everything in that country, just to put ourselves together, and we keep fighting while they are corrupting ourselves, while nothing is working in that country. And I ask myself, what is the Gambia government doing for people of the Gambia, especially the poor people of the Gambia? When you go, the makeshift houses that you see all over the country, the raining season now, those people probably even vote for Barrow, but the implication they are doing, they didn't know that now they are begging money so that we can provide them with roof. And people sympathize them from all corners of political parties, because that's what Gambians do. Once again, thank you so much, Brother Ben. One have to treasure, one have to respect you, not only to come and stand for everybody, but the energy that you have and the impartiality of your discussions. And wherever you think anything is wrong, anywhere, it doesn't matter who it is, you just come and say it and cause on us, and kind of being a big brother to that country. I hope, I pray, if I am Angel Jibril, as I can swing the magic wand today and make things change, you will be in that state house, so that Gambia can be in a trajectory.
Don't let them come for me.
No, I mean it. I really do mean it. Once again, thank you to our listeners, from Ebrima Java, my own brother, to my wives and everybody who is listening, those who are going to listen. Really reflect. Let's read, so that we can understand the trajectory that is our. Let's just not jump over conclusion and take our emotions and literally take anything that leaders are telling or bringing in our midst that we are insulting each other on social media. But let us know that our people are dying because of hospitals are dying. Our people are dying because of there is no employment. About nearly about 6 months now, we lost about nearly 35 Gunjurian youths that went into the sea, and we cannot locate them now because of the problems. You can blame them, but definitely the bigger blame should go into government. Once again, greetings of my boss Lamin Janneh, who has been very, very patiently just from work, and then coordinating, handling the technical stuff behind the scene, and all Gunju News Online staffs and all our viewers here in the Gambia and around the world. Thank you once again, Brother Ben.
Thank you very much, Ibarra. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
When we started this project, we looked at few things: location, accessibility, and the potential for growth. All these things make sense from a homeowner and investor's point of view. But we wanted to do more than that. We decided to offer services as well. This means providing infrastructure like water and electricity, as well as internal roads to widen the accessibility to properties, especially for the first-time buyers. A lot of people are buying land these days, but can't either access it for the next 2 to 3 years. And even if they get access, they would lack the basic infrastructure we offer to start building right away. This project allows you the freedom to choose whatever structure you want to build yourself, allowing freedom of choice in one of the fastest developing areas in Gunjur, Sifo. And since this project was created with the preservation of its lush natural environment in mind, we call it Greenville, the first and only NEA certified housing project in the Gambia, with close to 700 units available. This is an offer any environmentally conscious buyer would not pass up. Call us today and arrange a tour with one of our agents and see the beauty and potential of Gunjur C4.